Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories now. Super Falcons of Nigeria defeat Bayana Bayana of South Africa to win the African Women's Cup of Nations title in Accra, Ghana for the 9th time. Death toll in the boat mishap in Taraba State rises to 4 persons as the state government resolves to review regulations on water transportation in the state. President Muhammad Buhari arrives in Poland to join 29 heads of government for the opening of the Conference of the Parties on Climate Change, which kicks off on Monday. And the 41st President of the United States, George H.W. Bush, dies in his home in Houston, Texas, at the age of 94. ChannelsTV.com has more information for you, and on youtube.com/channelsweb you can watch our videos. You can also watch us on your mobile device via your browser or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows devices from their respective stores. Besides giving you access to news and updates on the go, the Channels TV and Channels 24 app have an eyewitness feature that you can use to share those pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the menu and follow the instructions. And here are some of the pictures that you sent in. The first video shows a protest by residents of Odogbolu Banwo community in Pt.2 here in Lagos State over alleged unfair treatment by Ikeja Electricity. They claim that they paid 3 million naira to Ikeja Electricity for transformers, which they say they are yet to get. They are demanding that attention be paid to their situation. Next photo shows a gully erosion threatening residents of Arenfuwe Street in Ilorin, Kwara State. Our eyewitness reporter wants the state government to reach out to these residents before more damage is done to their lives and property. And this final video shows gridlock with motorists plying the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway as they contend with this on a daily basis due to construction works ongoing along that route. Our eyewitness reporter wants the contractors to expedite action. He also wants the FRSC to be up and doing, especially as religious groups begin their various programs this month. We do sincerely thank you for sending us pictures as we ask that you keep them coming. President Muhammad Buhari has arrived Poland, where he will be attending the 24th session of the Conference of the Parties under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, otherwise known as Pt.2. The president will join 29 heads of government for the ceremonial opening of the conference, which takes place on Monday, the 3rd of December. President Buhari will thereafter deliver a national statement highlighting Nigeria's commitment to addressing climate change by implementing the goals set out in its nationally determined contributions. The conference is expected to finalize the rule book in the implementation of the Paris Agreement on climate change reached in December 2015 in France. In the meantime, former President Goodluck Jonathan has promised to meet with President Muhammad Buhari over the lingering feud between the Rivers State government and the Nigerian army. Dr. Jonathan believes that there must be synergy between the community-based security system, the state, and national security architecture. He was speaking in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital, where he gave a condolence visit to Governor Wike on the tragic collapse of a 7-story building where 9 people had died.
I've realized that without the locals, you cannot succeed in terms of managing security anywhere in Nigeria. When I was the president, you must have about the civilian JTF. Because when the Boko Haram came to a point, we needed some locals to support the army. And yes, some died in the process, but it helped so much. So I think I will take up with Mr. President, and if there's anything he could do, because it's always good for volunteers, young men who want to help the state to work with the security services to control. And from my experience as a former deputy governor and governor of Bayelsa State, and as much as I know Rivers State, if we don't have that cooperation between our volunteers working with the security services, we'll not be able to manage the security challenges of the states. And maybe there's a communication gap. And I think I'll take up with Mr. President to see how it could be resolved amicably for the interests of our people.
Nigeria's former president, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan. Ahead of the general elections next year, the primate of the Anglican Church, Most Reverend Nicholas Oko, is asking Nigerians to come out en masse to exercise their franchise. The cleric, who expressed optimism that the nation's security challenges will be surmounted, called for patriotism and prayers as the 2019 polls approach. He was speaking at the 2018 Carnival for Christmas in the nation's capital, Abuja.
At the moment, there is a huge fear in the air about safety. Just like before the last elections, people were terribly afraid. Some people are even thinking of relocating, that they don't know what the politicians would do. So in the light of that, we are encouraging our people to trust in God, who helped us before. He has not gone on holidays. He's still there on duty, and it's our refuge, and it will help us. And things will go well. The fear of bloodbath that will be unleashed by politicians will not happen. Our God will rescue Nigeria and save us from bloodbath.
The stage is now set for electioneering, and the two major parties, the All Progressives Congress, the APC, and the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, have begun their campaigns in earnest. The candidates under the platforms of both parties, incumbent President Muhammadu Buhari of the APC and Alhaji Atiku Abubakar of the PDP, have both made promises of sweeping changes in the economic fortunes of the country. In this next report, our correspondent Aurelua Shonibare examines policies of both parties as it relates to the realities facing Nigeria.
Now that the starting pistol has been fired by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, the stage is set for campaigns, and politicians will in no small measure clamor to win over as many votes as possible. To achieve this, manifestos that promise to inspire the much-needed change the country needs will be presented.
I think at this point, the Nigerian people have said enough is enough. They don't want the old guys, they don't want the corrupt guys, they don't want the competent leaders we have had, they don't want the looters, and they don't want the people who have destroyed their future to continue to be in charge of their destiny.
Education will be the new economy. My vision for education is one that will nourish the mind, create a good and progressive society that competes globally.
There will be 4 offices that will drive my presidency. The Office of National Strategy, the National Office of Risk Management, the Office of Performance Management, and the Office of Human Capital Development.
Two major contenders in the quest for the top office are incumbent Muhammadu Buhari of the All Progressive Congress, APC, and former Vice President Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party, PDP.
Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?
Both men have begun with much zest, introducing mouth-watering slogans, the next level, and making Nigeria great again. They have also made promises of job creation to the tune of 3 million spaces to be filled every year, improvement in infrastructure, diversification of the economy, tighter security, increased funding in education, health, and so on and so forth.
We delivered on our commitment to make public investments to spur economic growth, job creation, and broad-based prosperity.
My plan to restructure Nigeria will lead to a vast increase in the internally generated revenue, both for the federal government and the states.
But what does Nigeria really need? A leader that can face squarely issues that have in recent times become too glaring to ignore. Talk about industrial actions by unions over wages call for restructuring, revamping of moribund factories, creation of state police, agitations in the Niger Delta over degradation, insurgency, farmers' herdsmen crisis, and many other problems have become monotonous. As for the electorate, who are proving to be extremely patient in the face of all that has been thrown at them, what they know is that come 2019 and every 4 years after that, their votes must be cast until a leader who is ready to tackle head-on their concerns to their satisfaction emerges. Only then will the march towards greatness for the giant of Africa begin. Orolu Ashonibare, Channels Television News.
Well, let's now take a look at the issues further, and now being joined live via Skype from Abuja by the political analyst and lecturer at Bayes University in Abuja, Dr. Sam Amadi. I want to thank you so much indeed for joining us here on the news at 10. Now, Nigerians are being, of course, presented with these various programs and plans by political parties. Given the issues that Nigerians have faced over time, do the manifestos, in your view, really address the core issues?
Well, thank you very much. I think for the first time, we are getting much more structured presentation on policy options that candidates for the office of the president are proposing. But I would say my review of both the next level plan and, of course, the Atiku plan and their plans by the other candidates, they don't address fundamentally. There are three issues here. One is what I call the nationality question, crisis over who we are as Nigerians. Issues around who are as Nigerians, farmer-settlers conflict, the IPOP, various challenges to what we can call the national question. The second crisis is what I call the productivity crisis. And the Keith Lemore are not talking about issues around risk and investment and human capital. And of course, the president talking about the economic recovery and growth program, try to deal with the productivity question. How do we produce? How do we increase our capacity to generate wealth, improve our capacity to produce goods and services? And the third crisis, the crisis over ethical value, corruption. So somehow these plans sketch around these issues, but they don't really seem to zero in on practical options. What will be done? And so on the issue of nationality question, I think Atiku tries to deal with it when he talks about consensus and unity. But elite consensus is quite different from a Nigerian state that's fragmented, where people don't have a sense of oneness. So we want to see a plan that really talks about how we create that sense of identity. What does it mean to be a Nigerian? On the issue of productivity, Atiku talks about privatization, and of course, this government talks about improving our macroeconomic condition in terms of competitiveness.
If we should, my apologies, if I may just butt in there for a second or two, we know that much of the voting population in Nigeria may not necessarily understand these high-sounding manifestos as presented by both the APC and the PDP, which you're making reference to. But where does this leave them in the choice they will make at the end of the day?
Unfortunately, Nigerian electorates are captive electorates, so they're going to respond to primordial issues around ethnicity, religion, and perhaps what we call patronage. So some of the political actors are their patrons. They will tell them where to vote. But this is now a work for the NGOs and civil society to use these policy options and help the ordinary voters understand them. Ideally, the voters should be responding to these propositions, but essentially in the Nigerian tradition, these voters will perhaps not even pay much attention. This is for those of us who are urban dwellers, who are more literate and policy focused. But for the people on the grassroots, they look for sound bites. They're going to look for symbolisms. They're going to look for which of these candidates really seem more credible, believable. And of course, they rely on the intuitions and the guidance of their principals in those wards, their political leaders who tells them, look, when we get into power, we'll get this and that for you. So we'll see a bit of a stomach infrastructure. We see a bit around ethnic politics. We see a bit about religion. We see also a bit about a sense of marketing. Social media will play a big role in terms of branding these candidates and what we take about them. But essentially, we do hope that some constituency, media, and civil society will look at these policy options, at least post-election, to strengthen governance.
That'll be a good place to let it rest. Samuels, indeed, thank you so much indeed for talking to us. Dr. Sam Amadi of the Bayes University, a lecturer in that Department of Political Science, and he is indeed a political analyst. Thank you so much indeed for talking to us on the news at 10. When the news at 10 returns, Central Bank of Nigeria forecast 1.9% growth for Nigeria's economy in the fourth quarter of 2018, sees inflation at 11.4% in 2019. That's on Business News. Join us again.